Hi there, it's Julie Davison. Today I'm going to show you how to do some watercoloring featuring the Moon Lake stamp set from the 2015 Stampin' Up! Occasions catalog. This is my pick for my March 2015 Stamp of the Month Club. Each time you join the club, each month in the club, you get a new stamp set, and then you get a card kit to make 3 different cards. You get enough supplies to make 2 each of all 3 cards. So these are the 3 cards for March with the Moon Lake, and I've done watercoloring on all of the cards. So I'm going to show you in this series of videos how I did the watercoloring on each card. All 3 cards I use the same materials. I use the watercolor paper, which is really the best for watercoloring, and I use the Aqua Painters. The Aqua Painters come in a package of 2, and the difference is the tips. You have one small tip and one large tip. Both pens are the same in that they have a screw off top, and then you can put water in the bottom to use for your watercoloring. So those are the basic tools I'm going to use. Let's get started. Today I'm going to show you how I watercolored this card. It's got a cheerful little springy bird, and I'm using a piece of the watercolor paper that is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. I'm using the staz-on black ink to stamp the bird, and you want to make sure to use the staz-on because if you use our basic black ink, the black will smear when you try watercoloring. So the staz-on is intended for the watercoloring so that it doesn't smear the ink. So I'm going to stamp the bird right in the middle of the watercolor paper. And you can use either side of the watercolor paper. I've used both and I haven't found any difference there. So if you don't like the way it stamps, you can flip it over and do the other side. Now I'm using the Aqua Painter, and I'm also using ink pads. And I'm getting the ink from the ink pads by giving it a little push while it's closed. And then when I open it up, it's going to pool that ink there in the lid. So I've got all my colors here. The ink pads open up. I'm using Pool Party, Pear Pizzazz, Soft Suede, and Blushing Bride. So I'm going to get a little bit of water out from my brush, give it a little squeeze, and I'm going to start with the Pear Pizzazz. So I'm going to bring this one here and just kind of get some runny water and just start by coloring it. And what I like about the watercolor is that you can add more color and make it darker. So I always start a little bit lighter and then I can add more color to make it darker if I want. So I'm going to keep going until I get just kind of the color that I want. Over here in the grass, come up a little bit there. Sides. Okay, and then I'm going to move on and I'm going to do the flowers. So I'm just kind of getting rid of the color. I like to just use my hand there, but you can use a paper towel if you don't want to get your hand messy, or the paper underneath. So I'm just adding some dabs. This is the Blushing Bride color next. I'm going to put a little bit here on the breast of the bird. Okay, and then I'm going to move on and I'm going to do the branch. So I'm going to bring some of the Soft Suede, and I'm just barely touching the paper here because the watercolor will spread. So I'm just barely touching to bring some color in, and then I can spread it out if I want to, but the branch is so thin that it just needs just a little touch there. So we've got our brown, and then the last color, the rest is all going to be in blue, and we got some shading to do here with the blue. I'm going to do the bird in a darker blue, so I'm going to pick that color up and go ahead and bring it in here on the bird, a little bit on top of his head and his tail. And then for the rest of the sky, I want it to be a lighter blue. So I'm going to squeeze my Aqua Painter and really get a lot more water in here so that it's a lot more watered down. And then I'm going to come in and just kind of do a wash all over. And again, I can always make it darker. So I want to start off lighter and just fill in all the little gaps in here. The thing about watercoloring is it doesn't have to be perfect. So don't worry about getting every little nook and cranny and crevice just perfect. Well, that's a little darker than I want it, so I'm just going to squeeze out a little bit more water and water down . Just keep going until you get the color just right that you like. Alright, so after you get your image all colored, then you're going to set it aside and let it dry. You want to make sure that it dries real good before you put it on the card. I layered this card very simply. I just did a piece of the Blushing Bride and I embossed it with the Spring Flowers embossing folder, and then a piece of basic black to layer behind the watercolor paper. That just really makes it pop. So this is 3x3, and then I have a piece of the new 1 1/4 inch jute ribbon from the Occasions catalog. I actually took this and just cut it right down the middle to make it a little bit more narrow than, you know, so it could be a little smaller, and then I'm just going to take an angle on it as well and cut that. So I'm going to put that on my card with a little bit of fast fuse right there next to the top. And then I can cut the extra off the top of the card. And then I'm just going to layer the watercolor when it's dry on the card and stamp the greeting down here at the bottom. So there is the finished card. I hope you like it so much and that you'll give it a try at home. Thanks for watching. Happy stamping!